Kudash, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Sabayah, meaning holy, 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 Lord of hosts. Yah-He, Vah-He, those four syllables as a collective whole signify the tetragrammaton, which is the sacred name of God, one of the sacred names of God. You know, the first Yah signifies the Father who art in heaven, Abba, the architect of the universe, which correlates with divine masculine energy. He signifies the mother who art in the earth, the nurturer, the womb of the earth, 360 degrees, where mankind was created, mold, shaped, and formed, which correlates with a divine feminine energy. Va, which is the sixth letter of the Hebrew alphabet, which correlates with mankind, us. In the beginning, Elohim, which is plural, which means more than one, said, let us create them in our image. Keywords, us, in our, plural, which correlates with divine masculine because mankind. It's not just dealing with man, it's dealing with male and female as a collective, you know. And it also correlates with the sixth letter, which is Va, which correlates with the sixth day of creation, which mankind was created. And then you get the last Hey, which is correlates with the first Hey, which is a divine feminine as well, but it deals with Anna. Anna, Chokma. Anna is the opposite of Abba, which means mother, wisdom, spirits of the wind, which correlate with nature. As above, so below. As within, so without. The macro prosophis above, the micro prosophis below, because we are the microorganisms and the host of the Elohim. As it says all throughout the Bible, God is eternal. The eternal essence, the intuitive nature, you know, of us. Being created in the image as a reflection, you know. Psalms 82 say, ye are all gods and children of the Most High. But today, we're getting to a special topic. We're going to go into the greater and lesser keys of Solomon again. People probably want to know about like how all the patriarchs, matriarchs, you know, prophets, prophetess throughout the Bible were able to perform the miracles that they created. I mean, you know, went through, you know, these different stages when something miraculous happened, you know. Miracles, I'll say, correlates with magic. Magic correlates with metaphysics. And metaphysics correlates with magneticism, you know. The magnet, you know. What you put out is what you get back. Input, output, you know. It's like an energy exchange, you know. Just like you got a physical body below, you have an astral body above, you know. As within, so without, you know. Just like you have a chakra system in your body, you know, you have planetary bodies above you, you know. When they align, just like the sun, it has an effect on all living organisms on the planet. Just like you were born into a constellation, you know. Wherever the sun was at during your time of birth, and, you know, that goes off of star clusters. We all know that the Hebrew alphabet correlates with star symbols, you know. It's like the star language, the angel language as well. So, a lot of people want to know, well, I don't know if they want to know, but I'm going to tell them anyway. But, like, you know, we ever think about how, like, Moses parted that sea and how that thing really played out? You want to know how, like, when Cain and Abel got into a situation, you know, how a redemption was brought about. You want to know about how when Abraham, you know, was about to slay his son with that knife, and then how it was stopped by the angel. You know, we're going to go into these names of God and the attributes and what really happened in those scenarios, you know, and how these miracles really came about. Today, like I said, we're going into the greater and lesser keys of Solomon. I'm going to start off on We gotta go back a little bit. Alright, right here we're gonna start off on, this says prayers and conjurations. Conjurations is like basically summoning something or speaking into existence, drawing into you like a magnet. You conjure ye anew. Prayer is considered like affirmation and a spell. You spell words, syllables as a form of self-expression. Input, output. What goes up must come down. You speak it into existence, or you call upon it and you wait to get your desired result, which would be like a visualization down here. Your thought forms and you express them, and then you get a manifestation. So when you say something on a certain constellation or star, formation, just like the days of the week, the hours of the day, they're governed by different angels. Put it that way. And these angels are messengers, and these messengers, are light beings of enlightenment. They enlighten you with something, or they bring light to a situation, which could be your call. You calling on God, you gotta go through the messenger. It's like you sending a piece of mail out and you waiting for a response, but the angels are, the postal service. They take the message, process the message, and after it goes through processing, it gets stamped for approval, and then it goes to its destination. Depending on if that mail or that information has hazard material or wrong material that ain't authorized to pass through customs or something, it might get flagged, so like that's to say like you doing too much, that this ain't being granted at this time, or it's not passing through, the universe, and it ain't coming back to you. Red flag on the play. Sorry. All right, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna start off with it basically goes on. It starts off with prayer. It says, O Lord God, Holy Father, Almighty, Merciful One, who has created all things, who knoweth all things, and can do all things, from whom nothing is hidden, to whom nothing is impossible. Thou who knowest that we perform not these ceremonies to tempt thy power, but that we may penetrate into the knowledge of hidden things. We pray thee by the sacred mercy to cause and to permit that we may arrive at this understanding of secret things, of whatever nature they may be, by thine aid, O most holy Adonai, whose kingdom and power shall have no end unto the ages of ages. And then it says amen, and then it tells you, it gives you like a little dialogue, and it tells you what to do after saying this prayer. But then it goes into the conjuration, but it goes off like this. O ye spirits, ye, I conjure by the power, wisdom, and virtue of the Spirit of God, and by the uncreate divine knowledge, by the vast mercy of God, by the strength of God, by the greatness of God, by the unity of God, and by the holy name of God, Ahaya, which means I am, which is the root, trunk, source, and origin of all the other divine names, whence they all draw their life and their virtue, which Adam having invoked, he acquired the knowledge of all created things. I conjure ye by the indivisible name Ayat, that's one of the names of God as well, which marketh the expressive and simplicity and the unity of the nature divine, which Abel having invoked, he deserved to escape from the hands of Cain, his brother. I conjure ye by the name of Tetragrammaton, Elohim, which expresseth and signifieth the grandeur of so lofty majesty, that Noah, having pronounced it, saved himself and protected himself with his whole household from the waters of the deluge. You see these names, these attributes, when called upon in tight situations where judgment is coming, they will actually can bring you salvation. This is where the miraculous, miracles, or some people back then, they would call it magic, but it's coming from the majesty, their majesty, his majesty, divine masculine majesty, It says, I conjure ye by the name Tetragrammaton Elohim, which expresseth and signifieth the grandeur of so lofty a majesty that Noah had pronounced it, saved himself and protected himself with his whole household from the waters of the deluge. I conjure ye by the name God El, strong and wonderful, which denoteth the mercy and goodness of his majesty divine, which Abraham having invoked, he was found worthy to come forth from the of the Chaldeans. I conjure ye by the most powerful name of Elohim Gabar, it's another name, which showeth forth the strength of God, of a God all-powerful, who punisheth the crimes of the wicked, who seeketh out and chastiseth the iniquities of the fathers upon the children, upon the third and fourth generation, like it says in the book of Genesis. Which Isaac having invoked, he was found worthy to escape from the sword of Abraham, his father. I like the best part of this is when Moses split the sea. How he did that thing then. I conjure ye and exercise ye by the most holy name Eloah Va Daleth, which Jacob invoked when in great trouble, was found worthy to bear the name of Israel, which signifieth vanquishers of God, and he was delivered from the fury of Esau, his brother. I conjure ye by the most potent name El Adonai Tezbayah, which is the God of armies ruling in the heavens, which Joseph invoked and was found worthy to escape from the hands of his brethren. And this is also going to tell you where the Kodash, Adonai, Elohim, Sabayah, which I learned that in another book, which said that is the most potentest prayer that the angels sing day and night to the Most High. And it also expels any negative intentions, energy, dark vibration, grotesque, anything of that origin with malicious and dark, low vibrational energy. It can expel it and remove it at any given time. So we're going to get to that too, but that's in a whole nother book that breaks all that down, but it actually breaks down the Kodash in this book as well. It said, I conjure ye by the most potent name of Elohim Tezbayah, which expresseth piety, mercy, splendor, and knowledge of God, which Moses invoked, and he was found worthy to deliver the people Israel from Egypt, from the servitude of Pharaoh. I conjure ye by the most potent name of Shaddai, which signifieth doing good unto all, which Moses invoked, and having struck the sea, it divided into two parts in the midst, on the right hand and on the left. I conjure ye by the most holy name El Chayat, which is that of the living God, through the virtue of which alliance with us and redemption for us have been made, which Moses invoked, and all the waters returned to their prior state and enveloped the Egyptians, so that no one of them escaped to carry the news to the land of Mitzrayim. Just so you know, it actually says Mitzrayim. There it is right there. Yeah, real. That's why I said this book is more accurate in the translations when it's breaking down the translations of God. Lastly, I conjure ye all ye rebellious spirits by the most holy name of God, Adonai Melech, which Joshua invoked and stayed the course of the sun in his presence through the virtue of Mithraton, its principal image, and by the troops of angels who cease not to cry day and night. Look, listen to this again. Watch what it says. It says, its principal image by the troops of angels who cease not to cry day and night. Quadash, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Sabaoth. That is holy, 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 Lord of hosts. Heaven and earth are full of thy glory. That's what it means, as you can see right there. You see it says Quadash, Quadash, Quadash. Look, if you can see it. Quadash, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Sabaoth. You know, the Hebrew way to say it is spelled with a T, Tezbaoth, but the English word to say it is Sabaoth, like Sabaoth or Lord of Sabaoth, you know. Sabaoth, that comes from the word Shabbatai, which correlates with Saturn, which correlates with Saturday. Yeah, you learn some things when you're reading these books. And it says, Holy Lord God of hosts, heaven and earth full of thy glory. And then the 10 angels who preside on the 10 Sephirots, by whom God communicateth and extended his influence over low things, which are Kether, Chokmah, Benah, Gedula, Jebra, Tiferet, Netzach, Had, Yesod, Malkuth. Now I'm back to the, see, I memorize that part by heart. I do that in my rituals every day. I conjure ye anew, O Spirit, by the names of God and by all his marvelous works, by the heavens, by the earth, by the sea, by the depths of the abyss, and by the firmament, which the very spirits of God hath moved. You know, and how you summons them, you would say Iophiel, Iophiel, Iophiel. Yeah, no, is it Iophiel? Yeah, Iophiel. You know, you call upon that, because that means I command all spirits of earth, water, fire, air, and hell. So you have dominion over the 4 elements plus the 5th one that are in the abyss, because, you know, just like Solomon did, he used them to do his bidding as well and help build the temple and find, you know, treasures and objects, you know. And when they did not listen to him, he would bind them up in salt jars, and he had this special magic ring that he was able to cast them into darkness and chains, and they didn't like that, so they would bend at his will at any given time. Just like it told you in the book of Genesis, you had dominion over all the creatures, you know, and all, you know, spirits and other things as well. You know, if it says spirits, I know it said the creatures, but it tells you all, if you follow the pattern of things, you know, you have dominion over angels as well. So that's why you can command them. I conjure ye anew, O spirits, by the name of God, by all his marvelous works, by the heavens, by the earth, by the sea, by the depths of the abyss, and by the firmament which the very Spirit of God hath moved, by the sun, by the stars, by the waters, by the seas, and all which they contain, by the winds, by the whirlwinds, and the tempest. Remember in the book of Revelation, I'm coming in the world, I'm coming in the cloud like a whirlwind. By the virtues of all herbs, you know how I say in Revelation 2, take heed in the herbs of the earth for the healings of the nation, because they all have spirits and they all have power and they all connected to your body, because the earth's heartbeat is called the Schumann resonance, which has the same frequency exactly as the human body. So remember that. Plants and stones, you know, crystals, things like this, they all have power and energy to them, connected to them. Yeah. By all which is in heaven, upon the earth, and in all of the abyss, the shades, I conjure ye anew, and I powerfully urge ye, O demons, if whatsoever part of the world you may be. Remember, like in the book, in the New Testament, it says that the devil walks the earth, you know, but the devil is not just one entity, it's a multitude of spirits and different energy, low vibrational energies that move to and fro the earth, seeking who they can destroy and devour. But a demon cannot have dominion over you unless you let them in. You bring welcome into them, you know. I powerfully urge ye demons, whatsoever part of the world ye may be, that ye shall be unable to remain in the air, fire, water, earth, or in any other part of the universe, or in any pleasant place which may attract ye, but that ye come promptly to accomplish our desire in all things that we demand from your obedience. So you see, this thing goes both ways. It deals with duality. Duality is two sides to a singularity of a pole. So we are good and we are bad, and we have the best of both worlds. Just like the Bible tells you, it's a time for peace and it's a time for war. So it's like everything is at our disposals, and that's why it's like a lot of people that can't tap into this book or this kind of knowledge. And it tells you that before I read this part of this book, which I'm reading now, it tells you that you basically, they got a conjuration and a prayer that forgives you for not following the law, statutes, and commandments of God, and all the things that aligned you with the laws of nature, so nature can protect you. You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing you got to do before you can step into this realm, or at least follow it to the best of your ability. I conjure ye anew by the 2 tables of the law, by the 5 books of Moses. See? By the 7 burning lamps on the candlesticks of gold, before the face of the throne of the majesty of God, by the holy and of holiest, wherein Kohen Hagagalem. Hagagalem means I command all spirits of above and all the spirits of below. So we alone permitted to enter that in is to say the high priest. The Levites, which a lot of people consider them on the chart. A lot of people don't know how accurate that chart is, but they say the Levites are the Haitians, kind of can make sense, because they actually can tap into these things, So think about that, that one might be pretty accurate, I conjure ye anew by the 2 tables of the law, by the 5 books of Moses, by the 7 burning lamps on the candlesticks of gold before the face of the throne of the majesty of God, and by the holy of holiest, wherein the Kohen Hagagalem was alone permitted to enter, that is to say the high priest. I conjure ye by him that who hath made the heavens and the earth, and who hath measured those heavens in the hollow of his hands, and enclosed the earth with 3 of his fingers, who is seated upon the cherubim and upon the seraphim, and by the cherubim, which is called the cherub, which God constituted in place to guard the tree of life, armed by the flaming sword, after the man has been driven out of paradise. I conjure ye anew, apostates from God, by him who alone had performed great wonders, by the heavenly Jerusalem. Remember, it said New Jerusalem come out the sky. They said that the streets were paved in gold. They said each interest correlates with the 12 tribes of Israel and had a different crystal gemstone, just like the breastplates of Aaron did. It kind of is symbolic to Wakanda, Wakanda, this magical city where your body just cellular regenerates. Like they say, when you wear gold, you don't age as much, and then crystals help your body to heal and rejuvenate itself. So the New Jerusalem, and they said it's coming out the sky, and they tell you about the angel that went and took the measurements and all the dimensions of how it would be, and it said it would come to earth. It's actually talking about the kingdom come to earth. It will be done as it is in heaven, but heaven, but this New Jerusalem, your heaven, is coming to earth, and it's coming spiritually and physically as well, so it might be in the form of some type of ship, or it might come up out of the ground, because you ever hear these stories, like they say, every lie has a little truth in it, like they say, they have crystal cities beyond Antarctica, somewhere down there where everything is thriving, cellular generating, luscious plants and trees and life and all types of things. And they say that this ice is supposed to be blocking some type of electromagnetic fields and currents of the earth that helps us to heal, stimulate, and tap into our God-given X-Men elect type power, that the Messiah had. But, that's just, things that are lingering around there, that's things to keep in mind, But, right now, if they say the veil is being lifted and we're in an active sun cycle called solar maximum, as you're starting to see the solar flashes pretty close to near, because you're seeing blackouts everywhere. We've seen one in Puerto Rico the other day. There's another one in Spain. So, remember I just did a video called the Seven Thunders and how they correlate with the seven seals being broken. Go back and watch that video, because it'll all start to make sense to you. And I made the video before these events even started happening. So that should tell you something right there. That's how the spirit actually works. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, it says, I conjure ye a new apostate from God by him who alone had performed great wonders. The Messiah said, ye will be able to perform the things in which I have and work even greater wonders. Well, that time is coming. It's near. Look up, your redemption draweth near. You get what I'm saying? Great wonders by the heavenly Jerusalem. See, key words. You got to look at how the words are presented. And by the most holy name of God in 4 letters. You know that 4 letters is the Yod, He, Vav, He, which it doesn't say right here, but it says by those 4 letters. So you got to put 2 and 2 together and fill in the blank. And by him who enlighteth all things and shineth upon all things by the venerable and inevitable name, Ahaya Shah Ahaya, that you come immediately to execute our desires, whatsoever it may be. And you see, as I said, it says Ahaya Shah Ahaya right there, highlighted right here, so it's not made up. I've read this multiple times. I'm just doing a video on it now because something sparked in my soul to do that. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, now we're here. Everybody ain't gonna get this. Everything ain't for everybody. Many are called, few are chosen. The path is narrow, it's not wide. So the wide path is where everybody is congregating and everybody is following. But the narrow path is, that thin line where it's like, you thinking a little bit more outside the box, That's why the elect are kind of few. Comparative, 2/3 of the population will be getting wiped out, like it says in the book of Revelation. You got to think of the census of the global population of the world, which on a rough estimate would be like 9 billion people on the planet. So if 2/3 gotta go, you gotta look at it. That means 6 billion gotta go, which you left with 3 billion left. Then out of that 3 billion, you got only 144,000, which are the elected ones, which will be a light to all the cleavers, those that cleave to the chosen seeds. And the elect are only coming out of the 12,000 out of each of the 12 tribes, which are scattered abroad to the 4 corners of the earth and in some of the most crucial states and, messed up circumstances that would be on the planet, Just like the series Supercell, on Netflix. You see how all those different 9 ether beings were activated, because they said that only the 9 ether being is prone to sickle cell, which a gene that they say make you sick, but it's actually, they show that it activates you, and that these people have powers, and they all are found in low vibrational communities, hoods, slums, drug dealers, killers, murderers, robbers, just kind of like the Bible, how all of the 12 disciples were. That's why they called 12 disciples, because they all had to be in discipline, and they had to learn the law, and then they had to walk with the Messiah so they can gravitate that energy. And they was all knuckleheads, hard-headed, and they all just was some busy bulls. But guess what? They eventually got it, because that's the type of people that the Most High uses, It's how he always uses, He don't deal with punks. He don't deal with little, these Mr. Perfect, I'm holier than thou type people, Maybe that's why I'm the way I am, It is what it is. But, I got a little bit of good and bad. I came up in the streets, I didn't always live in the streets. I done lived in other communities with different people. I can vibrate and I can survive in both. You get what I'm saying? But I got the best of both worlds, I've been in juvenile institutions growing up, in and out, down there juvenile life, and then just to turn 18, move to a whole nother state. Been working for about 17 years now, and just, I don't got no felonies. I don't got no record against me at this point in time in my life. And, but it's still been a rocky road with a lot of trials and tribulations. But guess what? You live and you learn. You go through some things to know some things, I do a lot of experiments so I can get experience through trial and error. And this is one of them, And this is why I'm ascending to a higher height now, because I'm not, I started off, I grew up as a Christian. I went to juvenile corrections. I studied Islam. I was kind of a little Muslim for a little bit. I never dedicated or made a shahada to Islam, but I would go to church in jail, and I would go to what they call it, Jumar, to the Islam classes. So I would study both at the same time. I would stay up all night. I would read the Bible and the Quran at the same time. I used to preach to people all throughout the dorm all night. I was already like that back then, but I didn't know what I was going to transform into. And then over the years, I turned into, I even went to church, as my adult age. And eventually I got to the point I used to teach Sunday school, I used to work at a church, and I taught Sunday school, and I literally, it just, as I started doing more research, I started filling in the gaps in between the lines, and then I transitioned to the Hebrew Israelite method. I never followed any camp or Pacific group, but I learned a little here, a little there from different people online, some camps and groups, but I never followed, like their organizational philosophy. I always been a nomad and a freelancer. So when it comes to information, and then over that time, I just started digging into after that Hebrew Israelite, thing, because that was a great awakening and teaching us who we are as people. Like we're just more than some peasants and some low vibrational people. But I knew that the knowledge didn't stop there, so I started digging into every culture. So now I start digging into Buddhism, secret books of wisdom. It tells you all these same stories you hear throughout the Bible, but just more in depth and meat and bones. Then other books that it talks about in the Bible that correlate with the Bible, I start studying them. Start getting into other cultures, numbers, deciphering, translations, and then now I'm like a walking computer. You get what I'm saying? But so now I realize, and we're not subject to one thing. God is in all things, and we are a part of the all. We're not subject to just one piece of knowledge and to be stagnant and stuck in place. This knowledge expanse goes deep. The rabbit hole goes deep. It don't stop. So you think it just stopped with waking up and you think like, oh, I'm a Hebrew Israelite. That's a title. That's not a name. You really, Hebrew is a language. Israelite was a people, but then we became a scattered people. Another people took our places, which they call them converts. That's where you get the word ish from, or you get Sephardic Jew from, the separated, or you get the Ashkenaz because they're the sons of Gomer, which come from the bloodline of Japheth. So there's another people, and the Bible tells you over and over that Hitler even put it in his book, not to praise him or nothing he did, but he said these things. This was kind of his reason for why he was doing what he was doing. But, but he was saying that they were not the people, they're going to take over the world. They're going to do this, this, and that. And they're going to keep everybody else at the bottom. And then they tell you, he put it in there. He said it's a verse in the Bible said a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod. So it means a fatherless nation that are not the real chosen nation will be in Ashdod, which is a city in Israel. And then it goes on to Revelation 2:9. It says he knows our works, our tribulation and poverty, but we are rich spiritually. And he knows the blasphemy of them that say they are Jews, which the Hebrew word would be Yahudim, but are not, but are the synagogues of Satan. And then it goes on to tell you that these people do lie. They ain't basically manipulators and not what they portray to be, but they are some of the most powerful people in the world. So they are pulling a lot of strings and narratives. But guess what? He said he's going to make that land a desolate wasteland. And I wonder why. That's probably why we're not in that land, But he said we were going to be brought back to a higher place in a higher state, and I believe that we are in everything. We are everything. If we're the original people of the planet, that's, we probably was indulging in everything. Because before we was Israelites, guess what? We were something else then too, We were connected to the all and God. The name Israelite didn't come to way later down the line. Just like the name Yahweh, Yahuwah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Jehovah, that name is actually fairly new, It's a name change, which are just expression of 4 syllables that was really just Yah-Heh-Vah-Heh, They were never meant to be pronunciated into that, That's why some people say Ahaya Shah Haya, which means I am that I am. But as you can see here, there is multiple attributes and traits of God. Most people gravitate him. Like in Jamaica, they'll say I and I, But And then I'll just keep going. I conjure ye and command ye, O absolutely, O demons, and whatsoever part of the universe you may be, by the virtues of these holy names. So the only way to contain and subdue a demon is you have to do them by the most inevitable, holiest names of God that they tremble upon, because they know you can subdue them with those names, and they can't withstand those names, just like Kodash, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Sabayah. They flee. They fear and tremble at that, because guess what? You command them. They can't move freely like the way they was once doing at a point in time. Adonai. See, these are different names now. I'm just breaking it down. Adonai, then you got Yah, then you got Hoa, then you got El, then you got Eloah, then you got Elohainu, kind of like a new, Then you got Elohim, Ahaya, Moran, Kafu, Asha, Enian, Avin, Agla, Hazor, Emeth, Yael, Ritha, Yovah, Ha-Kibor, Messiah, which is a Messiah. I and I. That's why you hear by mouth, you'll be saying, I and I going to, I and I, children before me. Go back and listen to the song. They always saying it. You probably like, well, what the heck they saying? But guess what? It's multiple people. If you go through different cultures, you'll hear these names. But guess what? They all extend from the same root place. While everybody's divided and being conquered and being subjugated to a specific title or a specific group, y'all don't realize now you can't flow freely within the all, because God is in all things. You're part of the all, so you can indulge in the all. But you just gotta, know your place. Knowledge is very powerful. Knowledge is knowing. Wisdom is the belief through the experience and gaining the knowledge, and then you have your understanding, which allows you to comprehend. You comprehend, you piece things together. You piece things together and you comprehend them through consistencies and patterns, because that's where all truth lies. You got I and I, Mal, Ka, Urel, Kuzu. That's a new one. Kuzu. Mats, Fatas. I heard that name before. El Shaddai, we know that. That's the Almighty. Boom. And then, there's names of God that you say when in times of war, distress, and it says, by all the holy names of God which have been written with blood in the sign of an eternal alliance. Eternal within alliance. I conjure ye anew by the other names of God, most holy, unknown, by the virtues of which the names ye tremble every day. Baruch, Bakaraban, Bataxel, Achilgil, this one is Aquacha, Homorion, Ahaya, Abatan, I heard that one, Shevan, Siban, Uyazoramas, Chai, Ahaya, Abamachi, or Tagu, Nael, Abalech, or it's also pronounced Helich. And then you got Yeezy. No wonder why Kanye West running around calling himself Yeezy. But it's right here. Yeezy or Sha Easy. That ye come quickly and without any delay into our presence from every quarter, every climate of the world wherein ye may be, to execute all that we shall command ye in the great name of God. And just so you see right here, I'm gonna hold this up right here, like I say right down there. As you see right here, you see Yeezy, the different names. I'm saying if you could screenshot some of them, do so. But yeah, it's out there. It's in the public domain. Names, whole frequencies, and powers. And may everybody that watches this, hopefully become blessed, be enlightened. Let me say this right now. Hold us. This is the way that you use a protection ritual, mudra, you would say like this. This is what I'm gonna say. Sator Aripo Tana Apra Rotas. Aya, Aya, Aya. Anam, Aya, Aya, Aya. Kether, Chokma, Bena, Gedula, Jibra, Tiferet, Netzach, Had, Isai, Malkuth, Abraham, Isaac, Yaakov, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Be ye all present in my aid, and for whatsoever I shall desire to obtain. Going to this mudra. Those that take crafty counsel on the Most High's chosen people to come together under one consent to cut us off from being a nation or reaching our individual full potential. May their next devised move not work in their favor but against them, and recompense falls upon their heads, and they fall victim to their own devices, ideology, gadgets, and traps that they set for others. May you guide our steps into righteousness and take our feet from the path of sinners. May you put a hedge of Shemayim protection over our mind, bodies, and souls, as well as our households. May you move our spirits to do the things that are pleasant in your sight, and over death we choose life. May we increase in health and we become rich in spirit and wealth. Mim Ta Salah. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Salah, so shall it be. I have spoken it, so shall it be, by the power that is invested in me by way of my creator of everything that is, was, and will be. You know? Go from there. Call the angels into play. Then you tell your desire, your thought, your spell, your prayer, your affirmation, and you speak that from your heart, you know, and you direct that out, and then that message is sealed, the deal, stamp, send. Deuces.